The historical question I wanted to answer was, what happened to theater workers during the Great Depression? I've worked in the entertainment industry since I was a teenager, and I know firsthand how difficult it can be in the theater, especially during a hard hitting world event. During the Great Depression, Harry Hopkins, advisor to FDR, recognized the important role that the arts could play in boosting morale during difficult times, and he supported a wide range of cultural activities, including theater productions, art exhibitions, and music performances. Hopkins headed up Federal Project One, the cultural arm of the WPA. One of the branches of Federal One was the Federal Theater Project. For national director of the FTP, Hopkins chose his old friend Hallie Flanagan, which goes to show that even during calamitous times in the theater, sometimes it just comes down to who you know. Under Flanagan's leadership, the FTP became one of the most ambitious and innovative theater programs in American history, producing hundreds of plays and employing thousands of actors, directors, and writers. Flanagan's vision for the FTP was not only to provide jobs for unemployed artists, but also to create socially relevant and artistically daring theater that would reflect the diverse experiences and concerns of the American people. How would she do this? Well, she hired a bunch of directors who hired a bunch of actors, and they all got to work putting on plays. One of the directors Flanagan hired was a 20-year-old Orson Welles. Now, this was clearly before he created Citizen Kane, widely considered to be one of the greatest American movies ever made. Through the FTP, Welles created one of its most famous productions, Voodoo Macbeth, a radical adaptation of Shakespeare's Macbeth set in 19th century Haiti instead of Scotland, and featuring an all-black cast. The production was a critical and commercial success and helped to establish Welles as a major force in the theater world. Voodoo Macbeth was praised for its imaginative staging, its striking use of music and dance, and its powerful performances. The production also reflected Welles's interest in using theater to explore social and political issues, as well as his commitment to challenging conventional notions of race and representation in the arts. And here we have living newspapers. Living newspaper plays were a unique form of theater that emerged as part of the Federal Theater Project. These plays were like watching a documentary on stage and sought to dramatize real-life issues and events in order to educate and inspire audiences. I like to think about like Law and Order, how they always say it was ripped from the headlines. Well, living newspapers were doing that way before. Living newspaper plays tackled a wide range of topics from labor and economic issues to healthcare, housing, the environment. They were often produced in a highly stylized and avant-garde manner, featuring striking visuals and musical elements alongside more traditional dramatic techniques. The goal of these productions was to engage audiences emotionally and intellectually, and to encourage them to take action in the issues raised by the plays. And here we have AAA Plowed Under. This was a living newspaper play that centered around agriculture. It discussed the Dust Bowl, farm foreclosures, and of course, as the title would imply, the Agricultural Adjustment Act. This play, like many of the living newspaper plays, was highly critical of the government, and the government did not take kindly to that sort of thing. Many of the people involved in these plays, including Hallie Flanagan, were actually brought before the House Un-American Committee. And ultimately, federal funding for the Federal Theater Project was cut in 1939. Now, before I wrap this up, I just wanted to show this program on the right, which has a list of FTP projects that were playing in New York. As we can see on the top left, Orson Welles' Macbeth is currently playing. In the middle, on the right, is a marionette play aimed towards children. And on the bottom is a play called We Live and Laugh that was performed in Yiddish. I think this is a good example of the diverse nature of the FTP. So, what happened to theater workers during the Great Depression? They created incredibly diverse, socially and politically challenging works of art, and they did it all on the government's dime. This concludes my presentation. These are the sources I used to gather all the information for what you've just heard. And these are the photograph sources for all the photographs used in this presentation. All of them were obtained through the Library of Congress. Thank you very much.